welcome back to part 2 of the shooter game tutorial. First thing you need to do is go to the scratch.mit.edu website and you're going to need to sign in. Now hopefully your computer will remember your password, your username and password from last time. If not, please make sure put those in correctly. If you do have any errors, the only error that you'll be experiencing usually is that you just haven't typed it incorrectly, so please just double check that you've done that. Okay, and then sign in. Now you'll come to this screen to load up your old projects or the project from last week. Go up to this folder here, My Stuff. You click that, and then you'll have all your work you've done previously. I've made several versions already, but click the one you need to do, and it will load up ready to go. If you remember from last time, if we press spacebar, we can shoot out our bullets, and they're going to hit the side of the wall. Now, at the moment, that's not very realistic. The bullets will stick into the wall. So the very first thing we're going to do is when they hit the wall, we're going to make them delete themselves so that they disappear. Okay, so if we go inside my code, well, the very first thing I'm going to do actually is to save a copy of this. So save a copy. And then I can call this shooter game version 2. So if I ever want to go back and look at my previous work, I can do. Okay, so let's go to bullet, and if we look back at the code for the bullet, it says when it's a clone, it's going to show it. It's going to start at the hero, point outwards from the hero, point in the same direction as the hero, and it's going to keep going until it touches the edge. And then what should it do after it touches the edge? Well, that's when it should delete itself. So we want to find the delete this clone once it touches the edge. So let's try that and see if that works. Yes, so you can see when it reaches the edge, it no longer sticks in the wall, it deletes itself. Now the next thing we're going to do is to create a zombie for our hero to shoot at. So go down to choose a sprite, and well, in fact what we could do is duplicate this sprite, rename him to zombie, now remember when you're on, make sure you're doing if you're making any changes to the code, make sure you've clicked the right one. So here's our hero, here's our zombie. I'm going to get rid of all of this code by just dragging it all back into the code area, and it'll delete it. So the zombie currently doesn't have any code. If I now go into costumes for the zombie, I can make some changes. So I'm going to delete the gun because the zombie doesn't have a gun. So I'm going to press delete on the keyboard. I'm going to make his arms. I'm going to make his arms. How can I do this? Yeah, move this out here. Oops. I don't really want that. Move this one. I mean, you could have little arms in it like that if you wanted to, but that wasn't my intention. Oops. That'll do. Right, now we want the because it's a zombie, we want him to have a green body. So for the hero we didn't fill, but for the zombie we're going to fill with a shade of green like this. We can make it a bit darker maybe for a zombie, and I might redo those eyes because those eyes look a little bit, I think I might make them red. In fact I want it to be the same colour as the other eye, so I'm going to use the dropper tool. There we go, now we have our zombie character. Now for the zombie code, what we want to happen is when we start the game, we don't want there to be any zombies. So first thing we'll bring in is when the green flag is clicked, hide the zombie. So we'll go up to looks, and then we'll hide it. And what we want to happen is every 2 seconds we want a new zombie to appear. So we're going to go to control, and we're going to say forever, and we're going to say wait for 2 seconds, and after those 2 seconds are up, create a clone of myself. So next we're going to tell the zombie where to start. So when I start as a clone, first thing we want to do is to show that zombie, and we want him to go to start his life at the edge of the screen. Now if I drag him over here, you can see that the edges of the screen actually start at 250. So that it's basically a square that goes, I think it's about 190 up and 250 long. So I want the zombie to start anywhere along here. So I can't really show it, but the x coordinate is always going to be 250, but the y coordinate will be anywhere between 180 and minus 180 down here. So that it's basically a square that goes, I think it's about 190 up and 250 long. So I want the zombie to start anywhere along here. So I can't really show it, but the x coordinate is always going to be 250, but the y coordinate will be anywhere between 180 and minus 180 down here. Okay, so we're going to say that we always want him to start at 250. We want him to be a random number between minus 180 and 180. So what that means is you'll always have an x position of 250, which is somewhere along here. So let's say that again. So from the center point, if we went 250 along, he'll always be somewhere in this direction, but he'll start anywhere from down here to up here. It's easier to show really than it is to explain that on this. Now what we want him to do is to move towards our hero. So what we want him to do is to forever, we want him to be pointing towards the hero. So we're going to go forever, motion, we want him to point towards our hero and to take a step forward. So we want him to move. We want him to move quite slowly, so we're going to say 1 step forward. Now let's test that and see what happens. So here he comes. Oh, here comes another one. The reason we've got multiple ones is because we said every 2 seconds create a new clone, and they're all going to start in random positions. Okay, so we need 2 things to happen. When the bullet touches the zombie, we need both the bullet to disappear and the zombie to disappear. So starting with the bullet, there's two ways the bullet can disappear: when it touches the edge of the screen, or if it's touching a zombie. So we need to, you heard me say the word or there, we need to use what's called an or statement, which means, if I scroll down here into the green area, find this one that says or. So with this bullet here, it's going to continue moving until it's either touching the edge or touching a zombie. So let's put in touching a zombie there. So there's 2 times the bullet will always be moving forward until it touches the edge or it touches the zombie. Okay, so let's test that out and see what happens. So we've got a zombie coming towards us. Shoot a bullet at a zombie. Bullet disappears. Zombie won't disappear yet because we've not coded that yet. Stop that. So now I'm going to go over to the zombie, and for the zombie, what we need it to do is to check if it's touching a bullet, and if it is touching a bullet, it needs to delete itself. So we're going to go to control, we're going to say if, now I'm going to bring it into here, so it's forever going to be it's forever going to be moving forwards, but it's also forever going to be checking if it's touching a bullet. So we're going to go to sensing, bring over touching, and if he's touching a bullet, then he's going to delete himself, which is in control, delete this clone. Okay, let's try that out, see how it works. So here comes a zombie, I'll fire a bullet at him, disappears. Now, the bullet is going straight through there, and previously it wasn't. Now part of the problem there is, because you've got multiple pieces of code executing at the same time, sometimes it kind of misses over things it's supposed to do. So one way we can get around this is by putting in what you call a buffer. So we take this weight control here, and I'm going to put it just in here. I'm going to change it to a number like 0.1. It's only a very small amount of time, but that's quite a long time to the computer. It will give itself a chance to catch up with itself and make sure it's doing everything correctly. So now if we try it, there we go. Slightly unpleasant pause there when it hits the zombie, so I'm going to change that to slightly smaller time, 0.05. Let's see if that makes an improvement. Yeah, that's slightly better. Okay, great, that's working well. Now, quite easy at the moment, and we will make this game more difficult in several ways, but we can make the zombies come towards us quicker by changing their step rate up to, let's say they move 2 steps every time. Let's see how that goes. So they're definitely moving quicker now. It's still fairly easy, and if we want them to appear more frequently, we can take this time down. We can make this lower, because that means if there's a lower time, it will spend less time before it creates a new zombie. So let's try that. So now, yeah, they're coming quicker. Ooh. Okay, so there we have it. That's pretty good. Okay, so last time the zombies always came from the right hand side. And the reason for that was because we always told them to go to X coordinate 250. They came from different places along this side because we gave them this random number here. So they were coming along in different places, 180 at the top, minus 180 at the bottom, and they were appearing at random places along there. What I'd like them to do is to appear in the same way in a random position, but also coming from the left hand side. So this is going to be quite fun to do. Now, if I just drag this down, so every time a clone is created, I want it to randomly choose which side it's going to come on. So we're going to do that using a few different tools. So I'm going to have this block here that says if something then else. Now what this is going to do is I'm going to give it a number to check, and if that number is bigger than something, they're going to start on one side, and if it's smaller, it's going to start on the other side. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to come down here to operators, and I'm going to bring this one here. So if something is bigger than something else, I'm going to change this to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a random number in here between 1 and 10. And every time it creates a zombie, it will create a different random number. And it will check to see if that number is bigger or smaller than 5. So we want to take this here, pick a random number between 1 and 10. So it might say 7, for example. And if it was 7, 7 is bigger than 5, so it would do this, whatever code we put in here. But if the random number was 3, 3 is smaller than 5, so this would be wrong, and it would go down to this bottom section, else here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my go-to block, and I'm going to say, if the random number it chooses is bigger than 5, do this. And I'm going to duplicate that. And it's going to say, but if the random number that it chooses is smaller than 5, then do this. Now at the moment they're the same, so it won't make any difference. But if I change this to minus 120, minus 250, it will make that zombies come out on this side. So they're basically going to choose a random side to start on, based on what random number is here. We can't see it, but it will be some number between 1 and 10. If it's bigger than 5, it will go to this side, but if it's smaller than 5, it will go to this side, and then after it's chosen a side, it can then do the same thing it was doing before. So in a forever loop, move towards the hero, and the same stuff about if it's touching a bullet, delete itself. So let's test that out and see if that works. So our first zombie's coming from the left hand side, and we've got one coming from the right, and 2 from the, now that, yeah, so this is random. They're not coming in a pattern, they're coming based on this random number. We can't actually see it, but it's choosing a random side. Okay, next we're going to give the zombie some lives. So it needs to be hit more than once before it will die. Now, for each zombie, that's a number. It has to store its own number, and then it will have to count each time it gets hit. We call numbers in programming variables if they're going to change. So we need to make a variable. So we're going to make a variable called zombie lives. I'm going to zombie underscore lives, and it's going to be for this sprite only, because each zombie will have its own set of lives. So we then need to take this one here, so set. So right at the very top we'll put set zombie lives, and we're going to give these zombies 2 lives each. Now what's going to happen is every time it gets hit by a bullet, the zombie lives will take away 1, so it will lose lives until it gets to 0. So this is where it gets hit by a bullet. So if it's hit by a bullet, or it's touching a bullet, what we're going to do is we're going to change the zombie lives by -1. It will take it down by 1. So the first time it gets hit, if it's starting with 2, if it gets hit once, or -1, it'll take it down to 1, and it's still alive. And it will need to get hit a second time to get to 0 before it dies. So we need to put something in here to check to see if it has reached 0, and only when it hits 0 can we delete it. So we're going to go up to, I've said if a few times there, so we're going to go to the if statement. So bring if, so I'm just going to bring these 2 out for now. I'm going to put if here, and I want to do a check basically. So I'm going to check to see if, so I'm going to bring this one here, this one here, if the zombie lives, that says 50 there, but what we want it to be is less than 1. So basically, the first number that's less than 1 is going to be 0. So we want to check to see if the zombie lives gets less than 1, and if it is less than 1, we're going to delete the clone. Now I'm going to put this buffer we had up here. Let's put it here. Now let's see how that works. So that's zombie. They need to be hit twice now. Let me start that again. It's too slow. So 1 hit, 2 hits, 1 hit, 2 hits. They need to be hit several times. It's a bit difficult now. Now they need to be hit 2. So I'm going to make those zombies either walk slower or appear less frequently. So I can do that. I think I'll make them walk slower to start with. Okay, so let's try that again. See if I have a bit more luck. As you can see, they need 2 hits now before they will disappear. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is, now these zombies have lives, I'd like to have a visual way of seeing how many lives they have left. This box up here is useless to us because each zombie has 2 lives. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn that off. So I'm going to go back down to variables here, and it will say untick that box and that will disappear. But what I want to do is every time the zombie is here, I want it to change its colour. So I'm going to scroll up, I'm going to go up to looks, and there's something here that says change colour. Or it's changed, and you can affect what it changes. So I'm going to bring it down in here. So when it is hit by a bullet, put that in there. I'm going to say I want to change the colour by 25. Now let's see what effect that has. When I play the game, here comes a zombie. Now when I get one hit, his colour's changed, and I can see which zombies are the most or the closest to losing their lives. Now you can play around with that, see what effect you have if you change that to, say, I don't know, 50. See what happens, how much it changes the colour. Okay, I quite like that. And now, okay, so that's showing us a way we can change the colour of the zombies. Now next what I'd like to do is to create a tougher zombie with a different colour, maybe a bit bigger zombie. So I'm going to go to I'm going to create a new sprite. Now in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this one again, and I'm going to change this to zombie tough. You can change it to whatever you like. This one's going to be slightly tougher than the last one. And I'm going to, so I've got it selected, so we'll have all the same code as the last one. We're going to change some of these things. That's the great thing about using computers, is it does a lot of the hard work for you. We don't have to redo that now unless we want to. So I'm going to go to costumes, and I'm actually going to make this zombie, I'm going to make him slightly larger, not too big. Center him up again because he won't be on the center anymore. Maybe. Bring his arms out to the side. You can bend them if you want to make them look like he's got a muscle situation going on. And then I'm going to change the colour. This one I want to be a kind of purpley colour. Yeah, there we go. Right. So you can see here he's slightly bigger. Now I'm going to go to my code. First thing I'm going to do is to say that this zombie, they're going to be tougher, so they're not going to spawn, and they're not going to come as frequently. So I'm going to say these ones come every 2 seconds. No, in fact, let me make that every 3 seconds. These zombies are going to have 4 lives though. Now, I want the tough zombies to come along either the top row or the bottom row. So on a side note, I just want to try and re-explain that because I know it's quite hard to understand. If this blue dot represents a zombie, when it's anywhere along here, if you know anything about coordinates, you'll know that anywhere that the zombie is along here, its y coordinate will always be 180, but the x coordinate will change. So if the zombie was here, for example, its y coordinate would be minus 250, 180. Okay, so if it was in that position, that's what its coordinate would be. If I move him to here, oops, let me just put a bracket on there. If he was here, his y coordinate is still 180, but his x coordinate is something else now. So if I could copy it, it would be something like minus 150, but the y coordinate is still going to be 180. If he was, let's say, here, his coordinate would be something like
minus 150, 180. If he was here, he would be, sorry, it would be 0 to 180. if he was here, his position would be, let's say about, I don't know, 70, 180. The point being that every single position along here, along the top, the y coordinate is always 180. So we can, if we want them to appear across the top, the whole point of what I was saying was that
anywhere along the top, the y position is always 180. So we can set the y position to always be 180, but the x coordinate can be anything random. So anything random is always going to be 180. If it's 180, it will always be along the top, and the x coordinate can be some random number. So we can say the top number has to be some random number. Sorry, the x coordinate is a random number, but the y coordinate is always 180, and that will make him appear along the top. Conversely, if we want him to appear along the bottom, then we need some random number, but the y coordinate will always be minus 180. I'm going to put this pick random here. I'm going to say I want it to be somewhere between minus 250, 250 or 250. The x coordinate, sorry, the y coordinate is always going to be 180. So what that means is from the center here, the y coordinate, so going up, will always be 180, but then they'll spawn, come to life anywhere along here. Or we need to change this. Oh no, not yet. Put this over here. Duplicate this, so minus 250, 250. So the other option is going to be that they come across the bottom of the screen, which would be minus 180 coordinate. So I'll change that to minus 180. So let's see how that works. So we've got green zombie, and then we've got a purple one coming in from the bottom, one from the top. They're all going to crash on him there until we've changed something. Okay, good. That's working how we want it to. Okay, I think everyone's moving a bit quickly at the moment, so I'm going to make everyone move a bit slower. I'm going to make their steps 0.5, and I'm going to make the zombies, the tough, so the green zombies I've changed to 0.5, and the tough zombie I'm going to change to even slower, 0.3. So let's see how that speed works. So that's going to give me slightly more time to deal with them. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, let's see what happens when we shoot a purple zombie. So they need 1, 2. Ooh. So now, why is that still doing that? What have we not changed? So after a bit of playing around, I've realised that this time here, this buff we put in, is too quick at the moment, and it's causing some of the zombies to take too many hits, to basically take 2 hits from 1 bullet. So we're going to put that back up to 0.1 as it originally was. So that's on the purple zombies, and come back over to the green zombies. Also going to change that time there to 0.1, and let's test that and see if that works a bit better. So purple one, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. Yeah, this seems to be working better now. Still going to get overwhelmed with zombies, but I'll speed up a bit. Okay, so that's working well now.